Hi, my name's Phil. I'd like to talk about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss how the Tory media and Farage are attempting to play Trump in order to weaken Labour. Their strategy, of course, depends upon driving a wedge between the UK and US governments for their own selfish interests, but I think we're long past the point where it's been obvious that if they have any sense of patriotism, it's not for this country. But first, for daily political commentary, please click the subscribe button so you don't miss out. So the Tories, their client media, and Nigel Farage are all attempting to play Donald Trump in order to weaken the UK. However, they're doing it in different ways. The Tories and Tory media are attempting to bring up various comments made about Trump, which are, shall we say, uncharitable towards him on the part of Labour politicians. We've had them pointing out that David Lammy called Trump a neo-Nazi, for example, although it's not clear that Trump would consider this an offensive term, given his, past support for actual neo-Nazis. The Tory media have also been pushing Sadiq Khan's comments that Trump is a racist. Again, would he take that as an insult? I'm not sure. But there are two reasons why this won't work. The first is simply that the Tories don't exactly have clean hands themselves, because although the current Mayor of London isn't complimentary about the President-elect, well, compared to his predecessor, Khan has lavished high praise on Trump. Shall we remind ourselves what Khan's predecessor, a certain Boris Johnson, had to say about the orange one?
I think Donald Trump is clearly out of his mind. If you think that's a sensible way to proceed, you can't ban people going to the United States in that way, or indeed to any country. And what he's doing is playing the game of the terrorists and those who seek to divide us. That is exactly the kind of reaction they hope to produce. And I have to say, when Donald Trump says that there are parts of London that are no-go areas, I think he's betraying a quite stupefying ignorance that makes him frankly unfit to hold the office of President of the United States. I would invite him to come and see the whole of London and take him round the city, except that I wouldn't want to expose Londoners to any unnecessary risk of meeting Donald Trump.
In fact, I'll be honest, figures on the left really need to sort themselves out, because do you know what? I've not heard any castigation of Trump more savage than that given by Boris Johnson. Of course, Johnson's old news, isn't he? What about the current Tory leader, Kemi Badenoch? Well, she's got a bit of history on this as well. Not quite as colourful as Boris Johnson. She said she wasn't a Trump fan when he was during his first term. It's hardly a stinging rebuke, admittedly, but thanks to Byline Times' faithful sniffer dog, Adam Bienkov, we know that she praised a blog as being superb analysis. And what was this superb analysis of Trump that Badenoch thought was absolutely fantastic? Well, it considered Trump to be a dangerous populist, put him alongside figures such as Corbyn, Le Pen and Farage. I mean, can there be any greater insult for a Tory to throw the way of anyone than by comparing them with Corbyn? She also apparently approved of the description of him as a useful idiot to Putin. This is to say nothing of the right wings of darlings of America who have similarly attacked Trump, including his own vice president-elect and the man-child he's put in charge of his major economic project at the Department for Japanese Meme Dogs. So last week, when Badenoch was asking if Lammy had apologised to Trump, Starmer could easily have quoted what luminaries of the Tory party, including Badenoch and Johnson, had said about him, and asked her when she was preparing to apologise. But the reason Starmer didn't bother is the second reason this won't work. Trump doesn't care. These historical comments do not actually affect Trump's thinking at all. In fact, you could argue that it's a case of the Tories and Tory media insulting Trump to think that he would base his policy decisions on these comments about him. But Nigel Farage is also attempting to play Trump, potentially more effectively, certainly in a more direct way. No sooner had it been confirmed that Trump had won the election, Farage was stating that the next president had been invited to address the House of Commons. That's a fairly terrible thought, but I am going to add my thoughts about that specific prospect in another video at the weekend. But apart from anything else, this hasn't been confirmed or denied, by the way, so we don't even know if it's true. However, if it is true, it is plausible that Farage would know about it because someone at Trump's office could easily have told him. He has contacts there. But it could also just be the case that Farage has made this statement in order to browbeat Hoyle into offering the invitation. Because remember, this invitation would have to come from the Speaker, not the government. But then yesterday, Farage attempted another ploy. He's already been poking at this one. So he stood up in the Commons in all his misplaced glories. Keir Starmer immediately ridiculed him, but never mind that. It was during an urgent question on the Chagos Islands. Now, Farage claimed that there is outright hostility, that's his words, outright hostility to the deal on the part of the incoming US administration. Now, I mean, let's consider the situation here. The Chagos Islands should never have been retained by the British as the empire was being dismantled anyway. Farage claims that the opinion of the ICJ is advisory. Well, that's only because the ICJ has no direct hold over any government. So they're all sort of advisory. But that doesn't mean what it means in every day. They're not saying, oh, we're not sure about this, but we sort of think on the balance of probability. No, it's still a legal judgment. The legal judgment is that we should never have retained control and we should not have control, right? It's really that simple. The advisory part is it's advisable to comply with international law. So retaining the islands is not legal. That issue is settled. There's no argument about it. Even the Conservatives agreed with that, at least in government, even if they're trying to shamelessly shift that position in opposition. What's happened here is that Farage, because he wants to weaken Labour in order to make inroads in some of the constituencies he wants to target at the next election, is trying to ignite diplomatic rows between the US and the UK in order to induce punitive measures which will damage our economy, keep people poorer, and so maintain the conditions to keep populism flourishing. But this should also not work. If Trump or his foxy pick for defence secretary decide they have an issue with the deal, UK officials, I hope, would just point out, well, the deal is not about surrendering control of the bulk of the islands because that's legally settled. The deal was entirely about the United States retaining use of the air base there. That is the only part of the deal which could be cancelled. Would you like us to cancel it? Are you saying that President Trump doesn't want the air base there now? Because given that Trump is as keen as anyone to focus America on the Pacific, I can tell you they do want that air base. And on this matter, there is no real difference between Trump and Biden. It's quite weird. There's so much polarization of politics in both America and Britain. We often think, everything else is a parallel. There's a lot of commonality between Biden's administration and Trump's administration. And one of them is in terms of their attitude towards the Pacific. And Biden was delighted with the arrangement. So I strongly suspect Farage won't get leverage out of this one, other than a bit of easy rabble-rousing back here. But you can see what he's doing. He'll be in constant contact with Trump's advisors. He'll be telling them that the UK government, he's trying to screw you over. Oh, they're laughing behind, Trump's back. They think he's a sucker. That's what he'll be doing. Oh, they're trying to drive a hard bargain. I'll tell you what you can get away with. And he will say, you should push for X, Y, and Z because they'll have to give it to you. And it won't matter to Farage whether we do or don't accept, by the way. Because if we do accept, the terms will weaken the UK and it helps to, prevent our economic recovery and therefore plays into Farage's hands. And if we don't accept, it invites the possibility of punitive measures as Donald Trump is butthurt that we're standing up to him, right? As a response to this perceived slight. Nigel Farage is basically working hard to undermine the UK's interests purely to keep our communities and public services from recovering, because populism dies when established politics is actually succeeding, at least to people's expectations. And in this regard, Farage is much more dangerous than the Tories or their media at the moment because he seems to have a workable strategy. I'm not convinced the Chagos Islands angle is going to be a good one for him, but the general thrust of this, the general strategy, I can see being a problem. So in response, if I were Labour, I'd be maybe working on ways to get Trump to see Farage as not the great winner of this year's election that he claims to be, but a sad little loser who sits at the back of Parliament with all the other nobodies and thinks he's hit the big time. Take advantage of the fact that Trump and all of his secretaries of state probably know nothing about parliamentary democracy. Point them out, take some photos, say, You know, these are the winners down here at the front. Down here at the front. These are the losers sat there at the back. Sometimes they don't even get a seat. Right? That's what I would do. Get Trump to see Farage as a beta male who talks a good fight, but in actual fact, just a loser. And he might soon find his influence within Trump's office diminishing. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can join for memberships. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'll see you later.